Okay.
Yeah, so did I tell you that Tom from Illinois actually fell for our thing last week?
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
He texted me and said that he started like he's been catching up on episodes. I was like, really? You're catching up? There haven't been any episodes. But he said that he was catching up, and so he started listening. Fuck, did I miss some for the last couple weeks? Oh,
that's awesome.
It's just like, oh my God. I thought we did so poorly on that.
That's awesome. Especially because that's the one person that you want to get with it.
Yeah, it was his special prize, which I can't really say it's a special prize because we didn't do it. So
no,
it's
but
really
it is
his
a special
booby prize.
It is a special prize because he got.
Mm-hmm.
You got, son.
It's our revenge for his insistence that 70s rock band hair whatever is good.
It's not. Listen, so I've been thinking about this and I've evolved my stance on it.
Okay.
There is some 70s rock band that's good. Just like in every musical genre, you can probably find like an artist that you can relate to and enjoy. I'm just saying as a whole, as a genre of music, it's not all that great.
I mean, look, if we're talking about like technical, like is it good, is it bad? Like, man, that's far more technical than I'm going to get. Do I enjoy any of it?
Yeah, I mean, like I like Queen. I like Queen.
I'm trying to decide if I like Queen or if I like the documentary about Queen.
No, I like Queen. When you start going through like all of their library and like the hit songs that you've heard, same thing with like David Bowie. Like I can admit that I like David Bowie. There's some early David Bowie that like I just can't do. Like I tried really, really hard to be like, you know what, I'm gonna love me some early David Bowie.
Yeah, no, I feel that way about just about all of Bowie.
Yeah,
it's like one of those moments like when somebody is like, oh God, I really love me some David Bowie. Isn't this? And I listen to him like, okay, yeah, I kind of appreciate this.
Yeah,
it's when it just comes on the radio. I'm like, oh yeah. I really wish I didn't have ears.
Yeah, I've evolved. Like there's some David Bowie I love, but then some of the other stuff I don't.
Yeah, it's all in Labyrinth.
Yeah, it's true. Some of his older stuff I like a lot too, but like I've been trying to listen to more like hip hop and stuff too, and grow an appreciation for that, which I am. Like I'm beginning to like it more.
Are you trying to, or is your wife just like playing it in your ears?
She plays it, and so I've started wanting to like it more. So I've been listening to it on my own, which I definitely. I'll tell you this: the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack has helped me a great deal.
Really,
that
I am not
so
impressed.
Good.
There's a couple really good songs on there, but for the most part, I am just like, this is all very generic.
What's
hip-hop.
up? What's up, Danger? Hey, listen, but when you're trying
that's the good song, right?
But when you're trying to
like
get
that, and ironically, the one by Tattoo Face guy,
the Sunflower one's good too.
Is that the like the second track?
No, that's when he's singing in the intro.
Yeah, that's the one.
So here's the thing, though, but that used probably a point with music, because if you're just trying to get into something, that generic version of it, it's like the gateway to going further into learning about
find
it.
You some Wu-Tang then.
I haven't listened to some of that. I've listened to some.
Oh God, you're into Wu-Tang now?
Yeah, because
this is not the Nick I remembered.
But you know, like I've been.
What happened to Newfound Glory?
Oh, I still like them. Okay, listen, Newfound Glory, Fall Out Boy, and Panic at the Disco are like my holdover punk bands that I still really like.
Okay.
And Weezer, like Weezer still gets it done for me.
Oh sure, no, I actually just downloaded their like
the Black albums.
It was the Teal album is the one I think you're thinking of. That's all the like the 80s songs.
No, the cover album. There's also the Black album.
Oh, I don't know. I've downloaded a bunch of them recently.
But yeah,
I haven't listened to anything since the Green album.
Yeah, there's been a lot since then. Anyway, should we get started?
We really should.
Let's do it.
Hey everybody, welcome to Two Dumb Dads. I'm Chris.
I'm Nick.
And this is episode 50. I didn't screw that up.
Way to go.
I did not screw that up this time.
For the win.
Oh, I'm so proud. So if you haven't noticed, it's been another 2 weeks. And so we're realizing, hey, maybe this weekly format isn't going to work for us. So we're going to switch things up a little bit. For the time being, we are going to start doing our regular episodes every other week. So whenever you're listening to this, hopefully on Friday, you can expect another episode in 2 weeks.
Yes.
However, we're going to do our best to release little kind of journal entries in between, so that you still have something to listen to every Friday, something to remember us by. We'll give you a little like short 5-10 minute update, like what's going on with our lives, like little adventures in dadding. So you at least know like where we're at every week when we have every other week when we have our episodes. So just kind of be aware of that. Keep it in mind that like from now on, we're not going to apologize every time we miss a week. We're just going to own that.
I figure it's all trial and error. Like it's still new and you're still trying to figure out what works best for scheduling and also just format. So
scheduling for who we are, all that good stuff.
Also, like, my adventure and Daddy were just getting really lame.
Yeah, they're all like, I pooped.
Yeah, pretty much.
I pooped and my daughters watched me. It was, again.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, do you have an adventure in dating this week?
I do. So the last 2 weeks or so, we've been trying really hard to get Miles to eat more than just yogurt.
Awesome.
Because he's devolved into yogurt, where he eats 4 of them a day. So I basically started bribing him. Where he'll be like, I want a cookie. I'm like, you can have a cookie if you eat some chicken nuggets. And it worked after he throws like a whining fit about it, and eventually just kind of gives in because that's what's there, and then he wants the fucking cookie. Though he already figured it out when I was like, take one bite. He takes one bite, and then you have to give him the cookie because that's what you said.
Oh my god, we did that with Thea last night for the first time too, and she did the exact same thing. Like, here, try the bison, eat. She actually really likes the Brussels sprouts, but like, eat some more Brussels sprouts, try the bison, I'll give you a cookie. And she's like,
yep,
okay.
Then you have to do it.
And then you have to give it to her. Yeah.
Because otherwise you're setting the precedent that you don't follow through on what you say.
Right.
But anyway, it worked. And I was like, I just bribed my kid.
Awesome.
And my wife was like, so you parented? I was like, yeah.
No, I came up with like a monumental decision, wife. Right? This is amazing. Well, don't you understand?
It's because we so rarely did that because he eats so little that you're like, you don't want to not give him the cookies because you're like, well, it's fucking calories.
Sure.
So, and also I'm thinking potty training, like he's got to have something I can reward him with. Sure. But here's the problem with this. Like, it's all well and good that it worked. I don't have the energy to do it every time.
No.
And like the problem is if we both, me and my wife and I, both don't do it every time, there's no fucking point. So I'm just at a loss. I'm at a loss with the food thing. It's really difficult. But anyway, that's what I mentioned today. I bribed my kid for the first time.
Hey,
I did the first bribe.
That's awesome.
And it worked.
We did it like the same day, which means I made it 3 months longer.
You did. It worked though. Your kid also eats more regular food.
Oh yeah, that's true.
My kid consumes more.
I felt really bad when I did it. I was like, no, this kid needs to eat something that's meat.
Yeah, we're in that too.
She nibbled it. I'll take it as a win.
We're still in chicken nugget land. Anyway, what about you?
My adventure is dating is something that I suggested I want to talk a little bit more about last episode. And so rather than like making it a whole topic, I figured we could dedicate a few minutes to it here. Mm-hmm. So I have this problem, and it's a problem that you have mocked me for ages, and it's kind of been a joke on this podcast. And by a joke, I mean something that like we dedicated an entire episode to because it's something that like annoys you. Mm-hmm. My kid does some things really, really well. Yeah. She does some things that are like a bit more advanced. And here's my problem as a parent. I don't know shit about kids, right? Like I know my kid. I kind of know your kid, but I don't know kids in general. Like I don't have that frame of reference of like what's normal, what's not normal, what like where the bullet, like what you should be doing at what age. I was never learning that. That's what not
Google's for.
Yeah, but like in the moment you don't have that. And so
do you have a smartphone?
And so here is my issue. Like when I'm hanging out with people or I'm talking with or I'm in a social setting where there are other kids around, and I'm just like, because they're similar-ish ages, I just expect everybody to be on the same level as Thea. And so I have this really big problem of like, I'll be talking to people, like, I don't know, maybe you. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh yeah, so this is happening with Thea and blah, 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 blah. And there's this assumption of like, when people are telling me their stories, like, well, why don't you just do this? Because it's like, they're the same person. Mm. My kid is a little advanced in linguistics. And so when people are like talking to me about that, when I say they're a little advanced, I mean like she's 2.5, she's sitting down and having whole conversations with people. And see, you're doing that and you're like,
I'm just trying to listen. I'm trying to put in perspective, not your kid. So like, I love your kid. She's good, but it's not like you're like, Thea, can you tell me the theory of quantum physics? I'm
not trying to say she's going to fucking Yale tomorrow, dickhead. I'm saying
she's good at like why. That's where she's at.
What she does well is like she knows, like she remembers the conversations you've had. You can ask her about her day. She'll tell you a story about somebody. Mm-hmm. Like so and so colored with me. Yeah. So you can like get to the point now where you can have a conversation with her and she will fill in the details. Mm-hmm. Like it's not talking about astrophysics, but it is like a basic fundamental conversation. Yeah. So that is something that I've gotten used to and I just kind of assume if other people are doing. The reason I wanted to talk about this is, for example, I say this to you and you're being an asshole and like, Chris, you're being a dick. Your kid's not fucking like Stephen's whatever over here. Stephen Hawking over here.
Let's give the man some credit. Stephen Hawking.
Whatever.
Black holes.
He's nothing compared to Thea.
It's true.
Like she's not Stephen Hawking over here. She's not like, okay, but like she is like at the very least vocal enough that I can literally sit her in front of the computer with my parents and I walk away. And she has an entire 2-hour long conversation. They play games, they talk about their day, they have their little whatever, their games. And like she's at the point where she can be like in a social environment with a person who's not Aaron and I, and I don't need to be there to translate. And so like you get offended when I even suggest this. And I think like not just you, what I'm trying to suggest is like by making this assumption, I think I piss people off.
You do.
Yeah. So what do you do? Like, because it's not like I fucking know that other people aren't this like this.
Do you want best friend Nick who loves you and your family, or do you want like Dick Nick?
I want podcast host Nick who like is trying to answer the question.
So here's the thing. Yes, Thea is really lingual. I would say like you can do like Q&A conversations with her, right? Like, Thea, what do you think about this? And she'll give you an answer, and you can ask another question. You can get an answer.
Again, not suggesting she's going to yell tomorrow.
No. I'm saying I'm putting in perspective. Like, this is my experience with your kid. Like, Thea, what did you do at school? I call it great. Thea, what did you poop? No. Great.
She also lies about that,
but she might be lying about what she did at school too. She's just inserting like thing. Which is fun because it's like you said, you can interact with her. Here's the difference. You, Chris, and this is why I sent the article to you. Because she has that leap, you're like, well, I clearly can explain these really complex things to her. And by complex, I mean not actually complex, but like what would seem complex. And you can. She doesn't fucking care.
Oh, no,
like,
no.
But I think like the way that you present it is that she does, and that's what seems advanced, instead of just being like, yeah, Thea does questions and answers now. And understand that like it's simple questions and answers, and that you go, yeah, that's awesome. That's where she should be. And I think that so you're excelling her when you talk about it, you're excelling her past what she actually is, even though she is really good at it. And that to parents is because 3 months or 2 months, there's such a huge difference, and there's differences in boys and girls and developmental stuff that like. Her parents are like, great, like, your kid's a kid. You paint her like she's not a kid sometimes, and that's what's annoying.
Okay, this has gone completely off. So
yes,
this has gotten interpersonal and
it.
So not like the question I was trying to ask.
But how do you not do? Are you saying how do you not do that? Is that the?
So my question is like when you have a kid who's doing something better than the average kid. Whether it be like, hey, my kid eats a lot, whether it's like my kid has a larger vocabulary than average.
Or my kid can climb a lot or run.
Can climb or run, is tall, is skinny, is pretty, is whatever.
And my kid's going to be super tall.
Whatever the thing is that is considered better than. How, like, when you don't know, how do you exist in a social setting and have a conversation that isn't immediately suggesting dominance? Because parenting is innately like a competitive environment. Like whether you mean for it to be or not, like it's automatic. Like you just got super offended because I suggested my kid was good. It's because like there's an assumption then that I'm suggesting yours isn't. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
But that's like the immediate leap we make when you're in a social setting with other parents. It's like, well, how is my kid compared to your kid? Obviously, mine's the best. So anything you say about your kid being good must mean that mine is being bad.
Yeah, that's a really tough question.
I mean, that's the thing I keep thinking about because, like, I realize, like, the one thing Thea does right now is like she speaks well. Like, she has a pretty she strings words together better than most kids of her age.
Yeah.
But what, like, there's a million things that she's bad at. Like, she doesn't fucking like she'll eat vegetables and fruit, but she hasn't seen meat before because she fucking hates it. Like she just plops in front of the TV. She doesn't like she refuses to walk. She fucking just refuses to walk. Like if it's between going like from here to the like across the house, nah, I'd rather be carried. And it's just like that's one thing. Like my kid's not perfect, but there's one thing she's advanced. And so, like, the second you acknowledge that, it's like competitive atmosphere of parenting kicks in. It's like, all right, let's battle.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to think, like, so the thing that's hard is when you bring like friendship and relationships into it, like that becomes elevated. So I'm trying to think like how to deal with that with when like I'm talking to other parents and my experience with it.
Sure.
And it's not this, it's different. But that's also because like I haven't known them for 15 years, and like you don't have this other interpersonal conversation that's like friends and also teacher and like
Right.
and because listen, when I talk to parents, I innately assume that everything they're talking about their kid, they're over exaggerating their skill set.
Oh, do you?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, I always assume they're like 100% accurate.
No, because I look at my kid and like I
also have an inferiority complex, so I assume when other people say they're better than me, I'm like, yeah, no, that's obvious.
No, I think parents over exaggerate everything, and not in like a bad way. It's just that like it's so amazing to you, right? So here, I'll give you a great example. I think Miles is fucking hilarious. He's not. I mean, he's kind of funny. Like Aaron will send me funny shit he does at school, but like it's not. He's not as funny as I think he is. But I know that. But that's the thing that I like. So I just assume that most parents do that. Like Thea's really good with language.
Right.
She's probably like I probably don't think she's as good at it as you do. But that's not to say I don't think she's good. It's just that like it's so amazing to you all this shit. You can have a conversation.
Right.
You can do it. So you're like, okay, like. I'm trying to think of our other kid. Like, there's another friend of ours who has a kid who.
Your other kid? Oh,
so,
I know what
another
you're
friend,
saying
yeah.
now.
Who
Like,
but like, well, they'll talk to us about stuff that he's doing, right? And you're around them, and he's a fucking really smart kid and really super cool, and like, but then at the same time, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, like I get it, but like it's probably a bigger deal to those parents,
Sure.
And so, I think most parents get them. I think most parents do get that.
So do you think that's a matter of like people over exaggerating how great their kid is?
Yes.
Or do you think it's a matter of like them being in such awe of it that they're just so excited about it? Because the way you're describing it makes me feel like it's less a matter of like thinking that their kid is so much better than as it is they're so amazed that they're already.
I think it's both. I think it depends on who you're talking to, but I think it's both. So like, for example, and this is something I try to do as a parent too, just if you're wondering like what I do to like get myself out of this.
Okay.
If I'm especially at daycare when I see the other kids, I will talk about what I see the other kid do. So like when we were dealing with one parent who there's one of the kids at daycare who's really is even talking about really advanced, just period. She's
there's a kid who's younger than Thea
and Miles,
better with
both.
Words. Yeah.
Better with words, better with physical stuff. Like it just is. She's tall. She's just an advanced kid.
Sure.
And like when I was talking to her parents, like the first thing I did, I was like, oh my God, like I was out there and like saw her do this. Cause then like you've propped their kid up. So if you talk about your kid, it also gets them to ask questions about your kid. So then you can talk about what your kid's doing well.
I mean, that's the thing though, right? It's like the default conversation is always instantaneously tell me about your kid. And it's like, okay, let's talk about our kids now. And it's like, fuck.
So I would say to Hannah, so one part, I think it's parents are doing both. I think you're really excited about what your kid, at least I think that's for you. You're just excited about like what your kid can do, right? Totally awesome. And then I think there's always that little bit of like, but they're really good at this. Because that's it, whether it is or not, you consider a reflection on your parenting. It makes you feel like you're doing a good job, universal you, right? And so like, for example, we got Miles to get done hitting and biting, and one of our other friends' kids bit and hit longer. And there's that part of you where it's like, my kid didn't do that. Did he? But I think the easiest way to get over that is just put their kid first. Like, what is your kid doing? What is your kid good at? Especially if they're younger, because then they get to like revel in the thing that's new for them, even though you've experienced it.
Sure.
And then you can talk about, oh, that's really cool. I remember when did that. Now we're at this part. So you give the parents a thing to look forward to. It also makes it easier if there is something going on with that kid. So you're not being like, well, my kid does this.
Yeah.
And you're like, my kid is developmentally delayed. And you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah. I like that. That's a good point. I'm gonna try that out, and we'll come back and see how that goes.
Yeah, it's always the conversation thing. Ask questions about a person to get them talking.
Oh, see, I'm not very good
because it makes them feel, but it makes them feel important.
Yeah, definitely. So as a nice transition, I want to share something funny that I just noticed.
Yeah,
I've been playing with my beard throughout this conversation, and I'm pretty sure it's being picked up on the mic.
That's awesome.
It is. So
That's
for all of
awesome.
you wondering what that rustling is,
It's Chris's beard.
that's beard hair.
It's eating the mic.
So this week we have what I think is going to be a good conversation.
Yeah, I
really
think so too.
I think we've had this conversation like 3 times already, but I feel good about this version of it. So, a couple weeks ago, last week.
It was last week.
At some point or another, we came across a article basically describing about somebody who has done the research into Dr. Seuss's catalog and found that it is full of racially insensitive white supremacist material, and about how problematic that is. And so we wanted to kind of we posted that article for thoughts and comments on our Facebook group of Two Dumb Dads, and we thought we'd talk about it now. Do you have any more introduction to that you'd like to offer? I know this was kind of your baby here.
Yeah, well, I just read it. So one thing I should point out, and I think that this kind of came up.
We just read it. We never really we posted it without reading it. We're like, fuck it. I don't know. This seems like a good idea.
Yeah, let's
go for it.
I read the article initially because Dr. Seuss was such a big part of my childhood. Like, I loved me some Dr. Seuss, and like one of those things where I was like, oh, I get to read Dr. Seuss with Miles. Like, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And then I read this and I was like, motherfuck. As childhood idols are being destroyed left and right in
all of them
the last month.
I don't know how so many people are amazed about Michael Jackson. Like, that shit was out there for decades.
Oh, listen, that I can tell you.
We're getting into other subjects now. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. But you're right. So the people that did the study was the St. Catherine University Research on Diversity in Youth Literature. And I'm going to quote from the article.
That's a lot of words there.
I know. I'm going to quote from this article. Findings from this study promote awareness of the racist narratives and images in Dr. Seuss's children's books and implications to the formation and reinforcement of racial bias in children. Basically, saying that there wasn't a lot of racial diversity, and when you did see it, that like people who were black were represented as like natives.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. I should point out just immediately.
Worse yet than arguably than the black. It's like the Asian people who were represented that were like very explicitly like portrayed kind of as monsters in a very sort of like World War II sort of propagandist perspective.
Right. And I think that so they're problematic, right? Yeah. And I will say it's stuff that I've never noticed. Now some of it is a lot of the books I have are later in his writing career, and he did adjust a lot of that as he became older, and that's something that one of the commenters pointed out. But I guess here's the question. With all of these things, you mentioned the MJ thing because that came up in the comments as well. Like, do these texts that are sacred, right? Texts that are sacred to us as kids, do you still share them? Is it still valid to share them? Do you just pick and choose the ones that you share with a kid? Does it change the fact that both our kids are white, and so you can not show one that has the racially disparaged images, but like Cat in the Hat where it's just 2 white kids? Or do you completely burn it and just say it's not worth it at all?
So my answer to this is very similar to my answer that we did in the Holiday Hullabaloo for the various, White Christmas and Holiday Inn films.
Yeah.
I take these books with some exception as historical texts. Like, this is what the people of 19 thought was a reasonable thing to share with their children.
Yeah.
Because of the way society was structured, because of the way the world was. This is the way we viewed the world. This is the way we tried to share that viewpoint of the world with children. And now we need to acknowledge that it's wrong, that it's improper. And some of these can just burn in hell, and others can be explained, and others that maybe weren't so horrible can still be cherished. But I also don't think you can separate I'm a big believer that you can't separate art from the creator.
Okay.
Like that, over the last however many years, I've kind of come around on that. And while like maybe you can like look past it, that doesn't mean you can forget it. Like, you might like you're still a shitty person if you enjoy it, and the person and the creator was shitty, but maybe that's just one of those things that you're willing to do. Yeah,
which is a conversation that my wife and I were actually having about this because of the context of some other artists. Like, can you still enjoy their art, be it literature, music, or film, and understand that they're a shitty person. Same thing, like,
Sure.
can you recognize that if they did a good thing or did good things, do those lose all merit in the face of the wrongs that they commit? And I think with like Dr. Seuss, I tried to think about that, right? Like, so I think you're totally right. Like, these things in these stories, and one of the commenters mentioned like Looney Tunes is another great example where there's stuff just, I went back and watched Looney Tunes and I was like, oh
yeah, it's bad.
Shit.
It's all bad.
Not all of it. Not all.
About 90% of it's bad.
Yeah, but not all of it. Like, especially like,
no, there's that one that was really good.
you can go watch Space. You can go watch Space Jam, and that's still the Looney Tunes. You can watch Tiny Toons and introduce them to those characters. But some of the, you're right. Some of the old like 40s, like
thereabouts.
Just it's just I was my mind was blown because as a kid I didn't even register it. Right.
Well, yeah, and that's like part of the point. It's like, if you're a kid watching these stories, like, or if we're gonna keep it on Dr. Seuss, like if you're reading these books as a kid, you don't understand the racism, and that's, I think, actually worse. Yeah, because at that point you're just getting that information. Like you may not understand that like this character is supposed to be Asian, or that this black person is being portrayed as a native, but what you do understand is like that color on that person means that they're different. This. Yeah. Or like, what was the big one that they kept pointing out was like, where the slanty-eyed people from countries you can't pronounce. Yes. Fuck you, Dr. Seuss. Yeah. Like, if you just present that, and they're not in an age where you can talk through like, okay, this is the historical context, yada yada yada, this is why it's evil. Then all they're getting out of that is like, oh, I guess that's how the world is. Yeah, and that's where I find it hard, and I wonder, do you do the thing where, like you said, this is what it meant, and do you show it in that way? So, for example, like Dumbo, you show Dumbo because of the crows, which I'm sure is not going to be in the new Dumbo, which makes me happy. Right. But like if you're introducing Dr. Seuss, do you introduce the ones that are quote unquote safe so that they can be enjoyed, and then introduce the ones that are not later on for a learning tool? I think some of them could just burn.
Yeah, well,
I think a large portion of those can burn in hell. Like, I really don't see any real merit to them, outside of like an adult perspective of like maybe high school, junior high, something at that age where you can represent them to kids once they're old enough to understand the nuance of a racial society, and be able to say, look, globalization was not always a thing. I know you live in a world now where you have the entire world, nay, the universe at your fingertips. Within a second's notice, you can find out what is happening in, I don't know, Japan, Taiwan, wherever in the world, and just know. And talk to somebody, and like pull up your FaceTime and talk to your friend in Beijing that you met on tour or whatever. But there was a time when people didn't cross borders. Yeah. When America was so segregated from the rest of the world that they literally never saw another person that wasn't of a different type.
And we were coming out of a world war too, which
some of this was before a world war.
Yeah, I'm talking about some of his perspectives, specifically from a World War II perspective.
Well, so am I. Like in 1937, when he started writing these books, like we were in between World War I and World War II. But like, he hadn't even gotten there yet.
Yeah, but not all of those books have those. From what I've been reading and researching, a lot of those stereotypes came up in the in like the World War II era of it, where I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just saying historically. But so here's the thing, though. But you have things like Cat in the Hat, which is totally benign. And actually a good book, and it's fun. It has a message in it at the end. You have things like...
Actually, I'm so sorry. Can I finish my point before?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I just realized we hadn't actually gotten there.
I apologize.
So, until you're able to explain to a kid who doesn't have this understanding of the world, like that this is even a possibility, like I think this would be a reasonable tool to like share with a young adult, or like a very young adult or a very old child. This is the way that we used to simplify our world perspective in a non-globalized world, where we didn't understand what other races, other ethnicities, that there were other parts of the world that existed as human beings and not just as like enemies. This is the way the world functioned.
Or like a propagandic tool, or
like,
or a stereotype, or
like something that is very simply a way of portraying like, look, before the world was globalized, before you could connect with people in any moments of time, that this is the way we used to view each other. And over time, like, I'm not going to say that everything's gotten better, but we've at least understood where those nuances are, like that they exist, and some people choose to continue to perceive it this way. However, we are still understanding that it's not that way.
So I guess then, which is great. So you're using it as more of a text, essentially, which I think is kind
effectively,
of
yes. If you choose to keep any of these at all, that you use those of like the racially insensitive ones as a historical text of how the world used to explain society to kids.
And what do you do with the ones that aren't?
You mean like the ones that aren't racist,
like
and shit,
like How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which is on every Christmas, and my kid at least loves.
So I think one of our commenters said it best. And forgive me, I'm going to paraphrase.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think you can celebrate the work. Like, I think you can acknowledge, like, this is something, like, because these works weren't made with animus. This is the way the world viewed things. I think it is okay to accept the art, that this isn't a person, like, I personally don't say Dr. Seuss is a horrible human being, because he was existing in a world that held these viewpoints and they were accepted. It's not, like I said, it was in a pre-globalized society. Like, it just wasn't the world as we view it now.
And it doesn't make those viewpoints okay. It just is putting them in context of the world that they're in.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to that extent, I think because you don't call the person a terrible, awful human being, it's okay to still enjoy the works that have worth and purpose in today's society.
That's what I was saying. I think that's kind of where I land on it too, is there are these books that are, I use the word benign, I don't know what other word to use, that I think you can still share, like Green Eggs and Ham, or Cat in the Hat, or How the Grinch Stole Christmas, because that's, I mean, I don't know, has Thea watched How the Grinch Stole Christmas?
Oh, yeah, she loves it.
Yeah.
We bought the book because she wanted the green Grinch, and then she was heartbroken that the book doesn't have the Grinch as green.
I wonder why that is.
Because the cartoon was made in a digital, like, colorized society. Like, it was right around the time that
black
color
and white
TVs were coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And so they wanted to have everything needed to be in color to capture the kids', attention. And so the Grinch became green. In the book, at least the book that we got, which I assume is the original version, the only color is like the occasional red, like the red in the coat, the red in Santa's hat, because red symbolized Santa Claus at that time.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I think you're right on that. I think that's what the commenter said too, to give the commenter credit.
Yeah. And so here is where I will say that I'm going to go ahead and play my own devil's advocate, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I think there is a problem with that too, though. Because I think the reason why Dr. Seuss's works are so susceptible to children is because so much of them take place in this kind of magical fairyland where people aren't people. They're the Who's. They're this weird creature that doesn't embody white or black or whatever. It's just this weird creation of an entity.
Yeah.
Or the Sneetches, or this whatever, like all of these like weird creative animals that don't embody white, black, or human.
Except that they're all white.
It's just creatures, that they're all super white. But
the
point is, like, they're not supposed to embody whatever. It doesn't feel like they embody, because some of them are like yellow colored in the cartoon.
It's pretend.
It's pretend people.
Pretend. Yeah.
I think if you accept that, then when you're showing kids this, that it makes it that much easier for you to dismiss or like not notice the racism or accept the racism and those things, because it's still just pretend. It's Dr. Seuss. None of this is real. This is all fake and gimmicky and whatever. So when he says like the slanted-eyed people from nations or countries you can't pronounce, it's that much more real because you just dismiss it as not being purposeful. But it still gets embedded in the children.
Which is more of a reason not to use those books in the library.
Right.
But do you think that's a reason not to have any of the stories told?
Not use the books from the library?
So, I mean, not use those books from his library, like his collection. Don't read those books. But do you think that's enough of a reason to not read his work?
So here's what I would say. Thea has been exposed to it already.
Mm-hmm.
And so chances are we're still going to watch The Grinch.
Yeah, and same thing with us. So
if on the other hand, I could go back and I could do it again, I think where I would land is there are so many other texts out there.
Yeah.
There are so many other things that are just better. Like every other writer, like adult, like whatever genre they write for, they still have a kid's book. Like, so you are literally getting hundreds or thousands of kids books every year. Like, most of them are better.
Yeah.
And like if you want to make the argument of like, oh well, these books are so good for language development, like, no, fuck you. Like half of them don't even use real words.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, this would be a good one for your wife, but I think there is language development in that because it's sounds and how sounds come together and rhyming and shit like that. Like,
so
there's
what I would
merit
say
to
is
it.
there are other books that do that intentionally.
Yeah.
Like designed to do that in a more effective way.
I think his word too.
I don't know. I don't have that background of knowledge.
Yeah.
There. I thought it was just like, I know, was it Green Eggs and Ham was done on a bet.
Yeah.
I think if I remember the story correctly, somebody bet him he couldn't write a book with using 30 words or something like that, and Green Eggs and Ham came out of it.
It's such a good one. Sorry.
So yeah, that's kind of like, I think if I were looking at this from like without the pre-existence of Thea really loving How the Grinch Stole Christmas, I would let it go.
Yeah. It's funny because I don't know if I would, because it's such a, again, you come back to those things you want to share with your children. And because some of them I do view as really benign and just enjoyable, it'd be really hard for me to cut that out. But that's the thing, I think, the struggle, right? Like, what do you sacrifice from your own enjoyment of a childhood? Like, I'm definitely
most of it. I'm a person who would say most of it.
Yeah.
Like, look, society evolves. Just because it was fun when we were kids doesn't mean it's good or important. It just means like it has a warm place in our heart. Like our childhood was also shitty. And you know what? Our kids' childhood in 30, 40 years is going to be considered shitty then too.
I'm just wondering what like, here's, for example, like I'm pretty good on partying with Looney Tunes unless it's like a brand new version of it, because it's just better at that point. But like, I still am excited about like Ninja Turtles. I'm probably going to show Ninja Turtles, especially the first movie. I love that movie.
I haven't gone back in a while, but I don't think I will.
Yeah.
Like I have all of the original cartoon episodes on disc. Yeah, I still have them on disc from college. And like, it's been a while since I've watched them, but you know what I do remember? There are 2 female characters in that entire show, and their only purpose is to be saved.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm not showing that to Thea. Like, they have modern versions of that exact same cartoon that are more progressive.
Well, I was just about to say, maybe that's the answer to that, is to show the new modern version of it, which is probably just as enjoyable.
And quite frankly, like, why show them that when I can show them Captain Marvel or Spider-Gwen or like the new Miss Marvel, where like it's another, like, there are so much better things out there right now. Like, why do we have to fall back on old things just because they're nostalgic for us? Why is this nostalgia like the end all be all of, oh, I have to share this with, when there's so much better out there?
I think for some people that's one of the joys of parenting.
Okay.
I mean, it might not be for you, but I think for me it is. I'm just being around. Like, for me, the nostalgia of being able to share like the Christopher Reeve Superman movie and like Tim Burton Batman, like share all those movies that I love. Like, that's pure nostalgia. Like, some of them I think are great movies. It's one of my, right now, one of the things I look forward to most as a parent, like, that's not like super like earth-shattering stuff, but like watching Star Wars with them when he understands it, like, that's nostalgia. Like, there's no reason to actually need to watch Star Wars. Like, Star Wars is problematic too.
Oh yeah, no, and like, as I've realized that, I don't put it on as much anymore. Like, I've already kind of come to terms with like, I don't think I'm ever gonna go out of my way to show Thea Indiana Jones. Like, those were some of my favorite films growing up. But I don't really want to encourage that sort of a view of a man. Like, that is like, you talk about toxic masculinity. That is like the definition of toxic masculinity. Like, an entire generation that grew up on those films were like, oh God, this Harrison Ford character is so dreamy. Like, no, motherfucker, he just raped you. Like, he like literally sexually assaulted you. And you're saying that this is like your ideal of a man. Like, fuck you.
Yeah. And it's hard because the other thing is, like, from the podcast was talked about this, the kids watching it, and this is boys and girls, were just kind of like, shrugged shoulders and didn't care.
That's the point, right?
Yeah.
And that's the point. Like, they don't care. And it's the difference between like saying like, oh, well, they're going to be like absolutely devastated. Like, no, they're not going to know what's happening. But that's
but
kind
they
of the
still
problem.
loved the movie. I don't know, like, I don't know. This, and I think for me, like, movies are the thing that this becomes a much bigger conversation with, because I have so many that I want to share. And yeah, it's nostalgia, and I don't think it's, here's the thing, I don't think that's right or wrong if you're a parent that wants it or doesn't give a shit. Like, I think you can go either way on it, because part of the joy of parenting is sharing stuff that you loved with your children, and maybe they don't like it, but maybe they do. I feel
like whether or not they like it is a different conversation than whether or not it's worth sharing. And I feel like that is a much larger conversation for another day.
Yeah, probably.
So with that, and forgive me for kind of like stealing the last word to kind of cut that off.
Totally fine.
That's going to bring us to our email segment. And we don't have any emails, but we also don't have to do our weird, quirky question, because we have I didn't even know did you know that they still did this?
Did what?
Apparently you can put things in a paper envelope and like drop it in a box near the street. It doesn't have to be in the street. I was confused about that. And they will like carry it states away, hundreds of miles, and give it to a person.
What's paper?
That's crazy. We have
paper?
A physical letter.
What's a letter?
From Grandma Jenny. We were talking the other day, my grandmother and I, Grandma Jenny, were talking the other day, and she mentioned that she had an article that she wanted to share with us.
Ooh.
And so, excuse me, here it is.
Ooh.
The article is Money Matters for Kids, 3 Simple Steps to Help Children Learn About Finances. So I am going to summarize this.
Okay.
And thank God this is only a 1-page article, because I did not think to open this up in advance and read it. So the advice that the article writer, the writer of the article, who is apparently a CFA, CFP, manager of, I don't know, that's a lot of things about Country Trust Bank.
Important financial things.
Yeah, the important money stuff.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that we don't understand, money. Yeah. The things they recommend are to start young.
Okay.
Use chores or an allowance as a teaching tool.
Okay.
And to introduce a budget.
Okay.
So, in the article, it seems that they are suggesting that when they say start young, they're saying like start as young as possible. And in this picture, it appears these kids may not be so much older than Thea and Miles. So what do you think about this? Would you give your kid money, let's say next month, to like decide how to spend on their own?
Nope.
Would you give your kid money and encourage them to save on their own?
Yes, like the piggy bank thing. You found somebody, put it in a piggy bank. You can save it for later.
Like I think I might actually consider giving Thea money to spend at this age. And this is going to be another one of those things like she doesn't get it. I'm telling you, she does.
No, I actually think she might get this. Miles does not, but I think she might actually get this.
Because we go to the store and Thea, especially lately, Thea has been really enjoying going to the store.
Mm-hmm.
Like she'll take her luggage that my parents gave her for Christmas, and like we'll go to the kitchen, and then she'll put it in, and then we'll like check out, and I'll say, okay, well, what do you have? And she'll like, broccoli, and she'll just make up food that she knows we get at the grocery store. We actually get broccoli. We don't eat it, but we buy it. We buy it. And so then I'm like, okay, well, I need this much money. And then she'll give me money from her pocket. And then I'll like, okay, now here's your change. And she totally doesn't get the idea of change yet.
Yeah.
And then we leave. And so like, we just do that over and over. And that's how she's learning about shopping. Like you beep something, like scanning it, beeping it.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a chance that if I gave her, I don't know, let's, for the sake of whatever, like $5 a week.
Mm-hmm.
A week? Do you give allowance weekly or monthly? I don't actually remember.
Weekly if you do it.
$5 a week, or even like $2 a week, or like a dollar a trip,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And said, okay, you can buy whatever you want to with this dollar. I think there's some degree that she might understand that, like, okay, with this, I can get this.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't think she would quite be able to understand yet, like, if I don't get it today, I can get 2 of those next time.
No.
But that might be a way to, like, help that develop.
Yeah, I wonder if she would get that. This isn't. I don't have enough to get this. That would be the downfall of it right now. I think she would understand. Pick this, and then you pay for it with your money. I think she totally would get that.
I think so too.
I don't know if she would get that. The answer is no. Part of it. You're like, well, why? You just told me that if I do this.
Yeah. And that, like, when you try to explain, I don't think she would get that.
Yeah, she'd be like, okay, again,
yeah, so I think what I'm really getting at here is no, there's absolutely too early, because as much as she knows that she has to give something, I don't, because we're a credit card family. Like, we throw everything on the credit card and pay it off at the moment.
It would work if you could find something that was a whole dollar amount, like $1 or $2, and you direct her into picking one of those things in it. Like, here's some candy bars I know all cost $2. No matter what she picks, we have the right amount of money for it.
Okay.
Now you can have this. So it's always a positive.
I'm going down this path with you.
Here's my issue with this. Sure. Maybe I'm crazy. This is my own shit.
You are crazy, but different reasons.
Yeah, this is true. So my family, a member of my family, was really big on instilling being frugal to an extreme. And it has fucked me up so much with money that, like, I'll give you an example. I text my wife before I buy coffee.
Okay. Because
I'm so afraid to spend money. If I'm spending money on her or I or Miles, that's not a big deal to me. But for me, because it was so drill, and I'm not saying this is what Sam do, but like that started so early that I would be so afraid of like giving Miles an unhealthy relationship with money. When you're like, hey, let's build consumerism in right now and talk about like,
oh man, that's a whole thing right there too, right? Talking about capitalism.
That's my problem. That's my problem with this. Is like, listen, they have to learn it, and I think there are fun ways to do, like, give them the $2, let them get a candy bar. But I don't know when I want to be like. I don't know when I want to really start going down that road, just because my goal is to build his relationship with money where it's not as weird as I am with it, where like you can buy something for yourself and it's okay.
Yeah.
And because what happens is I won't do it, then I'll wait so long that I'll buy something I can't actually get.
Right.
Because I've just like said no. Then I'm like, fuck it, here's all my money.
Sure.
It's unhealthy. And I don't want that. I like find that happy medium. I'd worry about setting that really early with something like this.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I realized even just like while you're talking, like I think it would go really poorly for us because it would really diminish the amount of things she's getting, which would go really great for Aaron and I. Because like we kind of spoil Thea, like as terrible as that is, we kind of do right now.
Yeah.
Because like we don't get her big things, but it's like, all right, can I have this cookie? How much is it? $1? Yeah, I'll get you a $1.50 cookie. All right. Can I? Okay. If you're good in the store, we'll get you a new toy. Okay. What do you want? Oh, you want this like $3 like squishy thing? All right, whatever. That's $3. We can afford $3. Okay, sure. So it's like every time we like do a thing, like sometimes I'll just come home from the store or like from class, like I had an hour to kill, so I walked around Target like, oh, this is a cool little like dress thing. I'm gonna bring this home for Thea. Like, hey Thea, I brought you home a present. And so she just gets so much crap.
Yeah.
It's just like if all of a sudden we're like, okay, you get $1 a week, and that's all she got then.
I mean, it's funny because we don't have the financial ability to do that. So for him, it would work because we just don't. I mean, he also just isn't into stuff as much. So you probably could do it. I just feel like of all the things you can get your kid into, I just don't know how much, like, say, like, money to piggy bank, I'm totally on board with that. Put your money to piggy bank, I think that's great. That's teaching. I think at that level, I'm all on board. Like, doing an allowance at, like, 3? I don't know, man. Yeah. I get it when they start doing chores. I'm totally on board then. But I didn't have an allowance. My parents just gave me money when I asked.
Oh, really?
Within reason, like I had chores, but it wasn't like
I had chores that I earned money for.
Yeah, my dad was always, I would do this, but I was always a good kid about doing stuff I asked. But like my dad had the whole theory of good or bad. His parents never gave him money or an allowance, and he was, for him it was the one thing he could do for his kids. If we needed $20 to go do something, he'd give it to us. Okay. The problem is it doesn't teach you to save that money because you're just getting small amounts that you need to do the thing you want to do. Sure. As long as you were a good child. It's like you got it, but not in like I get this type.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a hard one.
This is definitely something we'll revisit.
Yeah, that's a really good
older.
conversation, though.
But with that, that's going to bring us to our recommendations. And I'm going to go first because I am going to start off with a recommendation from both of us. We are both going to recommend Captain Marvel.
Yeah, it was really good.
I'm going to take that off the plate right now.
That wasn't my recommendation, but okay.
I'm going to even propose that maybe like, I don't know about after this because it's getting late, but soon, maybe whatever, we record like a 15-20 minute podcast spoiling. I know words. Spoiling Captain Marvel, giving our thoughts, our impressions, and I just really want to talk about this movie in the context of kids. Mm-hmm. That being said, I really loved it. I know you did too.
Yeah, that was really great.
My recommendation, however, is going to be March 20th. CNN officially announced today that Disney will officially take over Fox.
Oh, yes.
On March 20th. And I cannot wait to see what happens. This is becoming my new obsession since it became official, because what I've realized is like, yeah, look, there is the obvious ramifications for the Marvel movies, which, look, that's all I care about. Oh my God. The thing I realized today as I was reading through this was they're not just acquiring Marvel. They're also acquiring the TV channels. They're including Fox, FX, all of those TV shows.
So Fox News.
Fox News.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
With the Murdochs out of the picture, how long do you think Fox News will get to exist as this version of Fox News? Do you think Disney's going to want to be associated with that level of animated conservatism, or do you think they're going to try and pull back to a more moderate conservative landscape? Do you think that'll have any impact on the various other outlets of the Disney conglomerate if they don't? I am just fascinated with this now. After I realized everything that they're acquiring is not just like 20th Century Fox, but that's all of Fox. Oh my God, this is going to be amazing.
Well, if it runs like, so I think a lot of the TV channels like FX, Fox will stay the same. If they run the news organization like they do ABC or ESPN, yeah, they're going to have to be way less propagandic. Like, it's just, that's how Disney works.
So, I mean, well, first of all, like those TV channels, though, like there's every reality that they may show more Disney movies. Like you may see more of like the Marvel films.
That's pretty cool.
On like FX and stuff now because it's all integrated.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like Fox News, you have to imagine it's going to be really difficult to have that like direct line to like the alt-right anymore. If like Disney wants to stay like unbiased and like this sort of like perceived at least as this like all-American neutral family friendly company, like if they're going to fire James Gunn because he's too liberal, are they going to say we're going to?
Well, they fired him because he made
super awful comments
when he was like a long time ago, but you know.
The point is though, like, are they going to hold this line, and how is that going to affect the way Fox News is run, and how quickly will it change if it does?
It'll be slow. I guarantee you it'll be slow. It
has to, because otherwise they're going to lose their viewership.
Yeah, but
it's totally going to stay conservative, right? Like there's no way it suddenly shifts to moderate or liberal. I think that's
actually a good thing, because I think if you have a conservative news outlet that's actually doing news,
absolutely,
then I think that like that's great. That's a huge positive, because then you can be like, hey, let me get a more conservative viewpoint on this thing that I read, like a Wall Street Journal, for example, that's doing actual journalism and not propaganda. That's a huge thought.
But then you open up the option for like a fourth news channel, for like Breitbart TV or Trump TV or however it works after
to fill that void.
Because those people are going to want a place to go. Are you going to then welcome something even worse?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you will,
right?
Because you'll have Breitbart. But in terms of mainstay media power, like Fox is such a big company, that's a bigger voice. I think that is a good thing, because there will be some conservatives, I think, that will stay who still hear it as a conservative voice. Like my parents still watch CNN, even though it's not as liberal as MSNBC.
Right.
That's their main thing. I think that's great. I think if they do that, that's great.
And that's the thing, right? Like we don't know. Like absolutely nothing may change. It may be profitable enough that they have to keep their shareholders happy, and so they don't touch it at all. But March 20th is the day everything is bound to start. starting with, they're saying, up to 5,000 layoffs on both the Disney and Fox side of things.
Why were they laying people off?
The synergy. Some of those people already have roles. You want to make changes to the aesthetic. It's terrible. But I think where some of those layoffs and merging happen, it's going to show like the direction they're going to take with that company.
Oh, I'm excited to watch that.
Yeah, me too. So anyway, that's my recommendation. March 20th. See how this amazing thing.
That's awesome.
Out. Nick, what are you talking about?
My recommendation is "Won't You Be My Neighbor?" It's the Mr. Rogers documentary.
Oh, sure.
It's phenomenal. The thing that's really great about it is, in many ways, and they touched on this, but he is who he seemed to be, for the good or the bad, and that's a really beautiful thing. Because I think sometimes you just need to see someone who like just wanted to teach kids and be a good person, and it even talked about some of his views that were problematic and how those changed. It was just great. Like it's what you want out of a Mr. Rogers documentary. He wasn't an asshole. He just really loved kids, and he really wanted to help them and teach them in the way he did it. And it just you laugh and you cry. It's beautifully done. If you have HBO Now or HBO, it's on there right now.
Oh, cool.
It's great. I really loved it.
That's good. I'll check that out. I've been wanting to check that out.
It's watch it with Erin. She'll really like it too.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us today. As always, you can find me at Chris Mossigan on Twitter and at Rampant55 on Twitch.
You can find me at N Westemeyer on Instagram, at N Westemeyer on Twitter. You can find us on our Instagram at two Dumb Dads.
You can find us on Facebook at the Two Dumb Dads Facebook group, and of course on our website, twodumbdads.com. And until next time, be well.